Welcome back, fellow gardeners. Today I just thought I could share something with you which has actually given me a lot of distress. Now the thing is my split leaf philodendron. I love this. It's a miniature version and I really do try to nurture this one, although I did have an incident last year. But the other day I come and I look at it and I think, why am I losing so many leaves? Now, basically the leaves, I've been chopping them off like this, and suddenly I realized I have scale. And so I just decided, let's look at this together and let's see how we can get rid of this pest. So my name is Alice and I'm the red soil gardener. As I said, I am very distressed because I do love this plant, and last year I did get an attack of scales and I cleaned it up. Then I moved this plant to a window and I think somehow the scales jumped in. And the other day I looked and I thought, why is it not doing well? And I realized I have scale, and scales are actually related to the mealybugs, the aphids, and they are related to also the white flies. And basically when they do come and attack your plant, it's going to die unless you catch it in the beginning at the right moment. So all I just hope is that whatever we're going to do to this plant today, it will survive. But if it doesn't survive, I need to get rid of it. Now, the thing about scales is, as we mentioned, they are related to these other pests. But the thing, unless you do really look at your plant, and I do recommend it, that you do constantly, as you're cleaning your plant, just look at it. And basically these sort of pests, they like to hide on the underside. So as you're cleaning, do look at the underside of your plant, and if you do see a mealybug or white flies or aphids or all those horrible pests, sorry to say, that's when you have to catch it at the right time. Now the difference between the between the scales and maybe the mealybugs is basically there are two different types of scales. One is a soft-bodied scale and it's actually white in color. But again, a lot of these scales do camouflage themselves, so you don't notice them. You can get orange one, brown ones, white ones. But basically, the soft body is white. Now, what happens with the soft body scale is that, first of all, it is born. And what happens is that by the time it incubates, by the time the nymphs, the babies start, they can walk. And that's when they walk onto your plant and then they pierce it and they drink the sap. Now, when you know that you do have an attack, is you get stunted growth, you get yellowing of the leaf, and basically your plant just doesn't look healthy. Now, the thing about the soft-bodied one, the thing to take note, like a bit like the mealybug type infestation, is that it will actually produce honeydew, and once it does produce honeydew, it will attract the ants. So if you do get into a situation and you look at your plant and you see a lot of ants hovering around, it may be the white-bodied scale that has produced this honeydew and is living with sort of symbiotically with ants. So then you know that it is scales. Now, the other thing about these white-bodied, which is very different from the armored scale, which is this infestation, is that the white-bodied actually does produce like a waxy substance, secretes a waxy substance, and actually it does travel short distances. But now when we're talking about this attack of scales, is that this is the armored scale. And basically, this is what it does. It actually produces its babies who can actually walk. And once they do walk, they pierce your plant and start sucking the sap, taking in the sap. but at the same time it forms a very hard coat over it, which is its armor. Even though you can actually spray your plant to get rid of the scales, is that the armor actually protects that scale so that the insecticide doesn't penetrate it. The other thing is that when the mama does have its babies, it lays its babies, it covers its baby with its body. So it's also very difficult at this stage, unless you're really following your plant, to actually notice that they are babies, and it takes 3 weeks for them to be produced. But these babies or their eggs do get into the soil. So the other thing is that if you do get any sort of scale attack, like the mealybug, also what we did, ensure that you do spray also the soil, because sometimes the eggs are in there and they will hatch. Now, there are different ways that you can actually try to get rid of scales. So one of the methods is you can take soapy water. You could either even spray it, soapy water, on this plant. And don't ever forget that they love hiding underneath, at the back of the underside of the leaves. And just spray it, soapy water. And then what you could do, then get your little cotton wool, and I would just slide it over, and that's where you get them. And initially, when it does get like this, what I had to do initially is actually isolate my plant, because these things seem to have the technique of hopping onto any other plant, and once it does hop, the infestation is there. And in the beginning you could think that you have a fungal or a bacterial infection on your plant, only for it to settle in your plant, and then you suddenly realize, oh dear, I've got an infestation happening. So this method with soapy water, actually, I've got one in my finger, oh God. This soapy water does actually take off quite a bit with this plant. It's a tedious process, but in the end, if you do love your plant, it's like being a mother, you will give it 100% of your attention. So I've managed actually to get quite a bit of these scales off with the soapy water. And I would actually continue repeating this every few days, so to ensure that your scales are gone. Another way of actually doing this, because sometimes these scales are really difficult to rub off, is I would just use my nail and scrape it off. Now, my problem here, there's another leaf that's going. I better remove that. And again, if you look at the infestation of this one, by the time it gets like this, look at that on the underside. Now, the other thing, what you could do is with scales, is you could use neem oil. And you do get this in your garden centres. I find that neem oil is actually really good, because it is non-toxic, it is organic, and it doesn't kill all the pollinators. But then the thing about neem oil, you have to repeat its application every 2 weeks to ensure that it does work. So you just keep repeating it. Now, I have neem oil here, which hopefully should sort out my plant. And so what I would do is, first of all, I would spray the soil, because to make sure that that the eggs that are here, or the little nymphs, don't survive. And I would repeat this process every 2 weeks. I would actually go in here and spray the crown, because they love to hide in crevices, And if you do get in a situation that you want to actually get rid of them in crevices, I would use a cotton bud. And with the cotton bud, I'm going to go in here and get rid of them here. Just keep pulling them out with the cotton bud. So what I'm going to do, as I mentioned, first of all, I did isolate it from the rest of my indoor plants because I got really, really worried. So as we go along I just really totally believe in neem oil, and I'm going to just do it with neem. And after this episode, as I mentioned, I'm going to spend the time with my baby and just nurse it back to life. And just to make sure you do go into these crevices, which you could use cotton bud. Another thing which is actually quite good, I find that if you get these microfibers, they're usually quite gentle again. With the soapy water, I find that they are quite good in actually cleaning the leaves. And here we go. Because they're not so rough, you know, and just like that. So I will spend the whole afternoon just working on my plant, and again taking my cotton bud in these crevices here and just making sure I remove them. And if worst comes to worst, I might even crop down my plant and let it start again. Scales are actually quite strong pests, and they do survive. Even in winter, they survive in trees between the barks. So basically, if you do have an infestation, all you have to do is bag it and don't throw it in your compost, because they will survive in your compost. And when you do take your compost and put it back into your garden, you will actually let them revive again. So fellow gardeners, do look after your plants. Don't let it be like in this sort of situation where it's a life and death situation, as with my split leaf. Don't forget to like, to share, and also press the notification button. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and invite other people, because we do try to have a lot of fun in this channel. We're on Instagram. I do put up a lot of photos of my current flowers and of my dogs. And don't forget that you can send me a comment, and I'm always there for you. And don't forget, we are on YouTube comments, so do send me a comment, and I do like having your comments. And do have a lovely, lovely day. So take care and look after your plants. Thank you. Bye.